How Rotary Phones Work by James Larson. As of October 2023, with the exception of business telephones, most if not all people use cellular radio telephones. The first telephones made available to the public had no dial and relied upon the user to tell a human what person they wanted to reach. At&t, who owned the Bell system, was already working out direct dial telephones to place calls. This is in a world where information moves slowly. Any improvement in communication had profound effects. The rotary phone allows a person to place a call without operator assistance. Using the literal dial on the telephone set, a mechanism rapidly disconnected and reconnected the phone. This signaling is on-hook, off-hook pulses. These pulses can be considered digital ones and zeros. Now, you might be wondering, what is all these boxes? I put together an example and thought it might be fun to show a working T1 line alongside a rotary telephone. This is a back-to-back working T1 line with all 24 slots bonded together as you would find in a business. I've always wanted to do this, and there is no documentation. Let me know in the comments if you'd like the configuration file. I'm using a Grandstream HT812 because it supports rotary dial. It is connected to my Asterisk PBX system through all the boxes shown. What we get here is a plain old telephone line. And here's everything. So here we got the Ethernet going into a Cisco box. This box has a T1 line. The T1 line gets routed over to another box, typically one you would find in a business. This other box has an Ethernet jack on it, which goes to the HT812. The HT812 is connected to just a telephone box that got pulled off of a building at some point. It basically has lightning arresters in it. It gets looped over to the telephone. What's interesting about the plain old telephone service, as they called it, it uses only 2 wires that ran miles to the phone company. They designed a signaling method over those 2 wires, on-hook, off-hook, dialing, and ringing. I wanted to show you what it looks like on those 2 wires. Repairmen use something called a butt set to troubleshoot line issues, named for hanging off a butt. Here's a phone box you'd find outside of a house. They use this as a lightning arrestor. It's also a separation between the phone company wiring and the customer wiring inside the house. I have the phone connected to it here. We're going to open it up so you can see. Basically, it's a terminal box, a splice point. And those white things there are the surge arresters. They normally connect to a ground. We connected a digital multimeter, and already we can see this is not the best tool for troubleshooting line conditions. It's very slow to respond to changes. When we pick up the handset, the phone places itself onto the wires, and we see line voltage drops to 5 volts DC. Hanging up, we see the line rise to 48 volts DC as the phone leaves the wires. This is one of those things where an analog meter would show us a visual representation of what's actually happening on the two wires when we place a phone call. When I was 10 years old, I wondered if there were secret unpublished test numbers phone company personnel used and how it all worked. This is an analog voltage meter salvaged from an old Bell Systems central office where all the phones in the local neighborhood would eventually connect to. Repairmen used something called a can wrench, which had a rather wide fitment across a variety of terminals. Usually 22 gauge red and green is used for line 1 in old station wire. White and blue is also used for line 1 with twisted pair. Can you believe 2 wires went for miles? Up to 6 miles sometimes. To ring the bell inside the telephone, equipment at the phone company would connect a ring generator to the line, producing up to 90 volts AC at 20 cycles per second. I don't have a meter that can show the ring, so we will just use what we have for now. Bell System engineers needed a name for the pound sign, so they named it Octothorpe. Special.
He did the monster mash. It was